You may be thinking fall is time for the garden to go to sleep, but it's not yet. It might be getting a little chilly. The sun might not be as high, but we're here to give you a garden update, and it may not be as bad as you think. Right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening, as we learn to grow and grow for change. All right, I stuttered my way through that one.
Third time's the charm.
Everything good in threes, in the world and in gardening.
Absolutely.
Always planting threes, tip of the day.
And now we know in podcast as well.
Yes. And now that we have given the tip of the day, everybody have a good day. Goodbye.
Did you tell me where I'm supposed to look again? Oh, good grief.
Wherever you want, just look. Right. So we've been taking a break from the video portion, but as of today, as long as everything goes well, we're back on it. So check us out on YouTube, and you can see this podcast video portion as well as the audio portion. So, and we've also we have a big announcement. We rebranded a little bit, just a little bit. So I'm sure you've noticed we have a new logo, but also we're not, the website now is Backyard Gardens TV, and there's a reason behind that. So when this first started, it was literally just going to be a movie. And then the movie or the podcast came, and then everything just started evolving quicker than I could. And Batavia came on, and she's been a blessing for the show and pretty much all things Backyard Gardens brand. So we changed it to Backyard Gardens TV because we're filming a movie. We got a TV show coming out. We got this podcast. We're both doing YouTube videos. So it just made sense, and it's easier for everybody else to find. So the Instagram is Backyard Gardens TV, and everything else is Backyard Gardens TV too. So check us out. Why are you shaking your head? You're supposed to be going like this.
I can't even believe that. How many minutes are we into this? And you've got me teary-eyed. Like, good grief.
As the queen of Backyard Gardens, you deserve to be teary-eyed.
So, again, those that are longtime listeners, we don't talk about much of what we are going to talk about other than, like, this is the subject. So I didn't know you were going to lead in with that. And if I knew you were going to kind of do a rewind, let's go back in time, I would have prepared myself.
Yeah.
I would have known I was going to get teary-eyed versus
You're
being
coming up on your
it.
1 year birthday.
Yeah, I am.
So, and the podcast has been out for a year, but I don't count the 4 months before you came on. So we just sweep that under the rug.
But that's very sweet of you.
No. Because seriously, I go back and listen to them, and it's cringeworthy. Because I remember like sitting in a room by myself, trying to carry on a conversation by myself, and it was so hard. And I would be like pausing it. Because, you start getting real dry throat.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, and I'd start back. It was rough. So, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I do now. Like, it's nice to have that gardening conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
So, as we've talked about before, gardening is a very solo activity sometimes. So it gives you more of a sense of community. How's that?
Yeah. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here. So, and with this, I bid you adieu. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
You better be. I'm sure there's some people that just drove off the road with that comment.
Let's hope not. Be safe. Just pull over.
We're just getting started, people. You haven't even seen the half of it yet, literally. The podcast is a small portion, but...
Yeah, but a very important one, indeed.
Oh, dude, I personally love doing the podcast. I think it's great. I didn't think I would when I first started, and I really have a good time doing it. So it's an amazing experience, and I learn a lot from you. I learn a lot from the people, but I kind of learn a lot from myself. by saying it out loud.
Yes.
And it makes me think about things that I don't really ever think about. It's really weird, right?
Yeah, no, it's exactly that. It's the kind of getting the thoughts out of your head, right? Because there's only so far they're going to go when they're inside your mind, right? You know, so, I mean, it's just like with anything, talking it through helps. And a part of like us trying to, you know, keep this organic and how while we talk a lot, we don't necessarily talk about the episodes in particular, and that being like leaving it in like that and letting it be organic helps us, I think, because you're really kind of hashing it out, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's definitely influenced these conversations, and, you know, this community has influenced this year's garden, which we were talking about it, I think, you know, in a recent episode, like, I don't do things because someone suggested it yesterday. If someone suggested yesterday, it'll be 3 years from now when I do it, right? You know, so I've been a lot more.
That is the damn truth, people.
Absolutely,
that is the damn truth.
I'm still working through my 2017 ideas now, but I think it's giving me a bit more courage, right? You know, to just give it a whirl, right? So
I agree with that.
Yeah,
and I think it's, you know, I'm not trying to make this the sappy episode, so let me just put it this way. No, I'm not. No,
I'm trying not to sniff because I'm almost full of snot now. I've been holding it all back. We're just gonna do it. All right, okay, let's go.
No, I wasn't really trying to do that. It came to mind because, you know, first of all, it's a little embarrassing to be this far in and have this many people listening, and then be like, wait a second, we got to change the website name. We got to change this. But it's really come to light in the past couple months. Like, this thing is a lot bigger and has the potential to go a lot bigger because it's something that I'm extremely passionate about, and you're extremely passionate about, and the other people that are involved in other aspects of it they're extremely passionate about their parts of it. So it just makes sense to kind of, So, you know, maybe one day we'll have we'll put HGTV out of business and we'll have BYGTV. You never know.
That is the ultimate dream. And rebranding, come on, it happens all the time. So
yeah, usually they're like multi-billion-dollar companies though.
But you didn't hear about the changes they made before they were, you know, anyone knew them. So
You're right. So anyways, enough of that.
Yeah.
You didn't remind me, but I do have a listener question.
I was just about to. Listen now.
You're supposed to remind me before we start. What is the deal? All right, so I'm going to pull this off of Instagram at BYGTV or Backyard Gardens TV. And the question is... All right. I'm going to read it because it's not voice, so... And I read a little bit better than my 6-year-old son. Hi again. Do you have any tips on dealing with powdery mildew? They're in about zone 8B roughly. And we get it all the time. It totally destroyed my pumpkins this year. I tried Serenade at the first sign, but it didn't seem to help very much, and it was so expensive. Not to mention it smelled horrible. I've done some research and I've heard a mixture of hydrogen peroxide, water, and baking soda helps, but I've never tried it. Some say neem oil helps too. I tried and prune and mulch to prevent it, but it keeps rearing its ugly head. Any tips would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys. So first of all, I got to say, I'm cool with typos, but it's really hard to read on air with typos. And I'm the typo king, so there's no shame in that game. But what do you think about powdery mildew? Because I don't know if you have issues with it, but down in the South, it's a horrible thing.
Yeah, so I don't have issues with it, but this year, all 3 of my winter squash plants are like hanging on by a thread, and it really points to powdery mildew. And in part, it's just because I did nothing with it, you know, so it really started to take off in those plants around maybe late August, maybe sometime early September.
Oh, and good for you.
Yeah. And I guess it had been like a month and a half they've been planted. No, it's about 2 months. So they were in the ground 2 months, were growing, looking good and lush, and then I started to see it. And I imagine if we were going to come up with some remedies, if I would have attacked then, I would have had a better chance now, but I didn't. And it's my style of gardening where I don't want to come in with the every 7 days, every 10 days doing this. I don't want to spray. I had neem oil, and I did spray once it had gotten pretty bad, but I think it was, the horse had left the barn already. So I honestly, I'll look for you, Ben, to give some tips. I don't have any tips. It's not something that I've battled much, and it's definitely not something I've overcome this year.
Well, I've got some bad news for you. I've got some pretty bad news. Neem oil, people can go to the roof and sing neem oil for it all you want. And here's the deal. It seems to be a Mr. Fix-It, the snake oil of gardening, right? It ain't.
Yeah.
Anytime something's like, it fixes this, it fixes that, it does this. That's not true, because if they did, you wouldn't be able to buy neem oil because it would be marketed to the top farmers all over the world, and you'd be paying astronomical prices. So the key to it is prevention. That is the key, because once you really get it, unless you catch it like, I'm talking about super early, it's extremely hard to get. So, or to get rid of. Because it really
jumps from leaf to leaf, if you will, right? Yeah,
it's just like every other disease. Like when the water hits it, it just spreads, and it lives in your soil for the year. So if you have a plant that has it, like, I compost most of my plants, but I don't compost those. I either bag them up, throw them away, or I burn them. But powdery mildew, so I've done just about everything under the sun, and I've had the only thing that I've had luck with, and it's not even luck, it was just like a little bit of slowing it down, is I took whole fat cow's milk, mixed it with baking soda, and you spray it in the middle of the day, and something about the protein from it will attack the powdery mildew, but you have to catch it like first thing. You can't wait, so by the time, and really, to be honest, by the time you realize it, it's probably too late. But I know when we interviewed Neptune's Harvest, they said that their fish emulsion, the Blue Label bottle, that will keep neem oil at bay as well.
That will keep powdery mildew at bay as well.
That's what I meant. Yeah, that's what I said. Booty trap. So
nicely done.
So yeah, that they said that, and I did not have as bad of an issue with it this year, but I didn't use the emulsion like I should have. I was spacing it out a little bit longer. Yeah. So that may be an issue, but water early in the morning, give your plants plenty of space. Yeah. Don't water at night. And if it rains, which it does, and in the South it's humid, which is just like a recipe for disaster, then, as long as you get stretches of dry weather, then you should be okay. But it's a tough one. So it's all about prevention. Give your plants plenty of air, which is where square foot gardening doesn't work for me as well in some things, because things are packed so tightly together. Yeah. So that's powdery mildew. It's not a good thing. And when the first sign you get it, cut it off and get rid of it. So that's the best thing to do, is just cut it. Yeah. So do you think that suffices as a question?
I mean, I think that for this particular, fungus, this disease, I think that's as good as it's going to get. Because I have researched it. I've had it maybe a handful of times over my gardening years. And earlier on, I just didn't know what it was. Kind of like, oh, well, that's a plant that's gone. Because I got it on my cucumber plants, later in the season.
Highly susceptible.
Yeah.
You can get, I think you can get some that are resistant to that. I'm not totally sure about that, but I think that is a possibility. Yeah.
And unfortunately, so my later, like when I kept on planting zucchini, it ended up again later in the season, found powdery mildew on that. But zucchini, for what it's worth, when I planted it earlier, beyond the whole squash vine borer thing, I was able to get fruit off of the plant, because they produce in a shorter season than winter squash would. Than pumpkins, like the message is saying, like, that's the hard part, because you're needing to keep a plant healthy for like 3 or 4 months, Right. So So yeah.
Well, the thing too is, you must not have very humid weather.
No, generally, no.
So, and down here we get, it's nothing for it to be 80. I mean, for the past week, it's been on like 90% humidity. But that being said, the powdery mildew does not necessarily kill your plant. So it takes its toll on it, but it doesn't necessarily kill it. So albeit it may be ugly, it's, you can let it ride for a little while too. Because, you're fighting an uphill battle. So,
yeah. I mean, if you're at the point where you're near, the fruit is near ready to harvest, you may just want to ride it out. That's what I was attempting to do. I just didn't realize how much longer it was going to take for, this squash to ripen up, which is a part of the update that I have today. Good night.
Oh, snap. Transition. Well, kick us off then. Let us know what you got going on.
Well, I will say, and I forgot to talk to you about when this airs, but either way, I will say that I harvested my sweet potatoes. It looks like we harvested on the same weekend, just by chance. And I, in full transparency, was disappointed.
Yep.
And then I said, the hell with curing. Like, they're all downstairs in the basement curing. But I took one itty bitty sweet potato, put it in the microwave, took it out, put some butter on it. And I was near tears. It was so good. I don't know if it was the potato or the butter or the combination of them both. But yeah. So
do you remember that whole speech I gave in the beginning about how, since you've been on, the podcast has been great.
Until now.
The fact that you microwaved a sweet potato, I renege all of that, and I take the whole thing back. It was a total lie, and my judgment is way off.
Absolutely. You know what's funniest?
I don't. Like, go ahead.
I'll show you, now that I've shared this with you, end up showing you what the harvest looked like. I got like one or two, if someone gave me these sweet potatoes, I'd be okay with it. But none of them, which is okay, right? Like, I'm okay with not having what it looks like in the grocery store. Like, I'm very clear on that with my gardening, right? It's actually a part of the joy. Like, some things just won't be what they look like in the grocery store. And I got a lot of potatoes, but they were you're talking about like pencil thin.
Yeah.
So I got one or two that were sizable. That would be like a really, really nice, like baked sweet potato. And I kind of look at it and say it was so much coddling, so much. And that's, again, I really enjoy sweet potatoes. So I'd already planned a different path for my sweet potatoes next year, and I'm going to go for it.
You want me to help you? I've come to a conclusion with sweet potatoes this year because my harvest was not as good as I would like either. And this is my third year growing. My first year was amazing. Amazing. My second year was horrible. And this year was okay-ish, right? I didn't get a whole lot, but I got some pretty good ones. But for the amount of vines and stuff I had, it just wasn't as much as I thought. So two things. One, it could be the variety. I'm okay with that. And then the other thing is the first year I got them from like Lowe's or whatever. I picked up a starter pack and they were in dirt and had roots already. Like, they were ready to go. And I planted them, and that was a bang up year. Every other year I've taken slips and just stuck them directly in the ground. And I think what's happening, and I could be wrong, is they're not, that root development that was already on those potatoes was enough to kind of give it that extra, you're talking 3 weeks or so time. Yeah.
But wait, let me stop you and go back because I'm confused. So the first year you planted the potato that already had roots. You planted that?
I bought slips that were in 6-pack cells that had already been rooted. And they were almost root bound. But I think that just made the difference. You know what I mean? Because if you think about it, man, like, it says 100 days for sweet potatoes, right? You put a slip in the ground that basically has no roots. And then you have to wait for it to get roots. So I'm thinking that 100 days is from the time that it has roots. So next year, I'm going to go against what everybody says. I'm going to put them in some dirt, and I'm going to get some roots, and I'm going to roll with it, baby. We're going to have some sweet potatoes one way or another, because like I said, my first year I got like almost 50 pounds of sweet potatoes off of 5 plants.
Yeah.
And I had 8 plants this year, and I probably got about 20. So, and there's a lot of variables that could be in there, but.
Yeah. Well, this is my first year, as you know, growing them. And one of the things that I thought was just, there are just not enough days, right? You know, so at this point, I mean, we're in cold weather. We're in cold weather for gardening for me. Right. So it's one day in 2 weeks where it's 70. Everything else is 50s, 40s at night. So this is not their time. So as I'm continuing to count the days, kind of letting them grow, really, they're not going to thrive or grow much more because of the coldness of the weather. Right.
And the amount of sun they're getting, too. The intensity.
Exactly. And so so then I started thinking back like, well, in my area, it's really not, everything I've read, it's really not warm enough for them until like the beginning of June, right? So how do you end up getting more time out of what you have, right? So June, July, August, like, you know, a little bit of September basically for me, because otherwise it starts to get a little bit chilly. So it's a very good point. You know, I started my slips, what I thought was late, I started them on April the 2nd, for whatever reason. I remember that date in particular. And they looked healthy for, like, you know, with roots and all when I planted them. I had 2 different types of slips, ones that I bought online and then ones that I started indoors. But to your point, like, it's still a starting point, you know? Yeah. So I think you're on to something when it comes to, the amount of work that they have to do once they get into the ground and finding a way to, you know, kind of get further along in the process. Because you want that, when that weather gets hot in that June, July, especially July, August weather, you want them to have some legs, so to speak, you know? So, especially the ones I ordered online.
Yeah. I don't think I mean, if I order anything if I order them online, then I'm just going to get them and stick them in dirt. But the way they ship them out, it's too late in the season. Yeah. You know what I mean? I really, truly believe that when they send them to me, it's just too late. I'm missing 2 weeks of planting time when in reality, that's a big deal. Yeah. For sweet potatoes, I mean, because you literally need every single day you can get.
Yeah, so I looked back and I know for sure it was June the 12th is when I planted them. I actually have a little video of it. And there were 2 things. The ones I started indoors, and that I finally found out, I don't know why I just didn't write to the email address that was on the package. Covington was a sweet potato. And one, I did find some note somewhere, not necessarily a reputable source, but it noted that variety doesn't like to grow in containers. Yeah. Right. You know, so if that's true, then that's already a strike against me. Then the second thing, but I did get from the ones I ordered online, the biggest sweet potatoes. Right. You know, and that's interesting because those were Beauregard. And so literally as I was laying them out to cure them, I was just saying, like, I'm eyeing, like, my slips are coming out of this batch. Like, I'm not effing around next year.
That's what I grew the first year was Beauregard.
I think more than anything, I'd be willing to give it another try next year with, all right, send them to me in June. But it's just at this point, the expense of it. Like, potatoes I'm driving me broke, you know, between white potatoes and sweet potatoes. So to try to manage cost, really, I'm hoping that I can hold on to them long enough to probably start slips more like March next year from some of these potatoes. So.
Yeah. So I was doing some math and it looks like I have to start seeding stuff inside in December. Mm-hmm. It's so much for a break.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, you know, because sweet potatoes, I was working hard to get slips this year and I started like mega late. And I had never started a sweet potato slip because I always bought them.
Yeah.
You know, but this was the first year where I really realized, like, oh shit, you know, you're not going to be able to get stuff. There's a possibility, which is why I have a full seed order put together, ready to order seeds that are supposed to be sold by the end of this year.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to bypass. I'm not even going to work because, you know, they'll be good for a couple of years. But yeah, the sweet potato thing, I'm with you on that one. I mean, I got some decent sized ones And I got a lot of little fingerling ones, which I'm actually not heartbroken about. They're actually quite fun to eat.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what? I just realized that I'm going to be eating a lot of roasted sweet potatoes. They're really good for that. A lot of microwave baked sweet potatoes. I forgot to tell you. So the first one was like,
look,
listen,
no.
Listen. Look, you got to wait for the story. So the first one was like a pinky size. Like, I mean, we're talking about like super duper small, right? And so I said, I washed it up, wrapped it in saran wrap, put it in the microwave. But like, who the hell knows how long you cook that size of potato? So I must have put it in there for 2 minutes. I walked away because I cook from every room besides the kitchen. Walked away and I smelled something burning. I come back in, I'm like, shit. Like, this thing has cooked. And it's black in the center. I cooked this thing that's because it's so small at 2 minutes. So then I said, all right, I'm going to try it again. Got one that's a little bit larger. I don't know if I think I did like 1.5 minutes or whatever. But yeah, it was beautiful when I cut it open. And I mean, again, the smallest thing you'll ever see. It's like, I feel like I'm at one of those fancy smashy restaurants and they bring out, one of your courses. You're like, okay, but
the funny thing is that since she brings that up is that really is like a delicacy to like fancy restaurants, and it's just an immature potato.
Yeah. So I haven't had the heart to tell my mom that we won't have sweet potato pie. Yeah.
You've got enough to give her sweet potato pie. You could just sacrifice everything for that.
Well,
it's your mom, dude.
Yeah, so what's probably going to be the great lie is I'm probably going to break down and buy some sweet potatoes to make sweet potato pies. Because I just don't make one sweet potato pie, right? So if I would have had enough to make, because the idea is cutting up. I mean, once you take the skin off of those things, I mean, that's going to be the work trying to get to the point of like making it for a pie. It's much easier to wash it up and just, eat it, skin and all. So anyway, I'll probably end up buying a few. I'll have to cut back. I normally make like 4 or 5 pies or something. I'll cut back on that.
Well, and two right now is the sweet potatoes are in season, and you can get them like super cheap right now too, and they last. So, because we've got enough. I think I count because there's 3 of us, and we're big sweet potato eaters. And first of all, pro sweet potato eater tip.
Oh, here we go.
Do you have a toaster oven?
I do.
Does it have a timer function?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those combo air fryer, toaster oven, rotisserie. Like, it does all of those things.
Yeah. So what we do is, especially like in the wintertime when we have sweet potatoes, is we take them and we put them in the toaster oven, set them for an hour, and then you come back and you got nice sweet potatoes, perfectly roasted, good to go. So don't be using a microwave, Batavia. You work so hard. Don't do that. Don't do that.
I absolutely will all the time. I love the way that a rusted baked potato tastes from the oven.
Yeah.
But who in the hell has by the time you figure that's what you're going to have, the hour and 15 minutes it takes to cook that way? So
I do. Yeah. I'll make time because it is a magical experience to have an actual roasted potato. I think, especially a sweet potato, because then it gets all caramelized and it starts oozing out and browning.
Just a note, I don't want to take anything away from all of the research that we've all done with sweet potatoes in the curing process. That little fingerling, pinky ring potato was sweet, is all I'm saying, so.
Yeah. And it's really what it comes down to for that, though, is the storage life of it. So you got to let the skin harden. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you on the sweet potatoes. I'm glad that we're together on that one.
I'm not. You're selfish, but that's okay.
No, we both sucked at it this year,
Yeah, I mean, well, there's definitely something to learn. I actually had already planned on going in a raised bed next year. So, I mean, I can't, and I may or may not, it may be something like uber duper short from a video perspective, because even the filming it was a pain in the butt, because I was trying to beat the rain, because that's all we're getting now, right? So I was trying to beat the rain. I was looking and saying, we're nearing the 130-day mark. The recommendation from where I bought the slip said don't let it really go past more than a month past the 100-day mark. But again, that kind of goes on what calendar are we really counting on.
Right.
But anyway, I said, let me get out here. Because we're going to get a bunch of rain that Sunday. I already had the plastic on it. and I pulled them. It was the windiest day, so I really couldn't even do any audio when I was recording it. And so that started pulling them out. And again, it's I don't ever want to look at this and not be grateful because I grew something that I can consume. And so far, the one microwave sweet potato was good. So I'm going to presume that the rest of these are going to be very tasty. And I didn't have the highest hopes once I started looking at the vines and how few there were. So I kind of had braced myself, not the way I braced myself for the potatoes.
But see, I had a shitload of vines.
Yeah, well, that's that too.
You know what I mean? Like I had vine galore, and I just didn't have potatoes to match, and I don't get it, you know. And I got to look into it. And I mean, I got soil issues, and I know that, but sweet potatoes like a sandy soil, and I mean that's why we kind of unofficially call our sandy bottom farms because we have sand. Yeah, but which kind of leads me into what I have. One thing that I've done is I collected soil samples to get a soil test.
Okay, good.
So that's like right now is the perfect time because everybody, like all of the like serious gardeners do it in the spring and throughout the summer. And they usually like your extension service. I know mine charges in the summer, but in the fall and winter, it's free. Oh, okay. And there's a turnaround time, right? So in the summer, it's like a 2-week turnaround, but in the winter, it can be up to like 6 weeks or so. So if you get it in early enough, you still get that 2-week turnaround time, but free.
Gotcha. So, nicely done.
Yeah, it's pretty cool too, because what they do, I haven't gotten the results yet. Actually, I haven't even sent it off yet. I collected a sample yesterday. But what they do is they look at it and they say, okay, you're deficient and all of this stuff, and then they give you recommendations about what to put in and how much to put it and how to put it in. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've never needed a soil test, but it's become very evident that I 100% need a soil test, especially in one side of my garden. So where the wild things grow, it's just not, it's not working. So, and I mean, I'm sure that I could just add some compost, but I figure it's free. Why not? You know, let's see what this native soil does. You know, what's wrong with it. A little bit more direction
on it. Yep.
So,
well, I look forward to hearing back what they say about that.
Yeah, I'll make a whole thing about it. We'll probably talk about. I'll read the results and all that. Now, I will be pissed, however, if I read the results and it's like, your soil is perfectly fine. You just don't know how to grow food, you dumb bastard. You know,
they have a template with that response. Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of extensions, I reached out to my extension, local extension in Illinois, because I wanted to ask them about, in particular, the winter squash, butternut squash and spaghetti squash, because it's time. Like I'm at the point now where I need to start pulling things off the vines. Like it's not these
that
things.
That spaghetti squash that you sent me a picture of was done.
No, I'll show you another picture of it. It's starting to yellow up now because it was still kind of, my classic iPhone is still kind of pale. But I did ask about whether or not, it continues to ripen once you cut it off. And their answer is, generally yes. How ripe it is once you pull it off will determine kind of what happens, like if it is going to be completely ripened or if it's going to rot, so that also pulling it off before it's ripe will obviously also affect how long it's going to be stored for. So ultimately storage time as well. So that made me feel better. There are a couple for sure I know for butternut squash that I'll be able to cut off and, take in, and I'll probably just organize my treats and eat those earlier rather than trying to really, really preserve those for a longer time. And so my demeanor is around, we're going to get a frost by the end of October. Like it's going to happen. And I've been looking at some of my tomatoes and I'm just like, the weather here is so cool where it's not getting these tomatoes aren't getting what they need to continue to ripen at any quick degree. So I'm not saving a lot, leaving them on the vine. So in between the rain we're going to get like over the next day before we potentially get snow at the end of the month, I am going
Are they calling for snow?
Yeah. 1 day in the
Ew.
forecast. Yeah, in the 10-day forecast, we have 1 day with snow that's planned, and down to 33 since it's going to snow.
Dude, I hate it for you. It's literally 85 degrees here right now.
Yeah, man. I'm trying not to. And the biggest thing I think, like, I don't want the garden to stop, period. Of course, there's that. But I think I finally have caught up with preserving, because I have been a preserving machine. And it's been tiring. I know I'm going to really enjoy it, like when I start consuming some of these things. But I was trying to buy myself some time, so I don't want to pull anything into the house that I can't actually start eating or preserving.
Yeah.
And so the idea that the timing is going to end up working out. But then there's a different kind of watch, because you and I both know pulling it off of the plant doesn't guarantee that it's going to get to the point of full ripeness. Just like even leaving it on a plant, who knows what could happen to the veggies. So what I'm thinking is going to happen is, like, things like the tomatoes. I think I don't have as many on the plants as I think I do. It's just kind of hard to tell now because everything is green, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing about this time of year, though, is you get them loaded, and it does get hard to tell. And quite frankly, you're just burnt out on it too, probably. And it gets to be like, all right, it's not really doing anything. And you're kind of, I'm going to make an assumption here, but you're like at that point where it's like, you don't want the garden to end, but you want the garden to end, but it's too late because you have, everything is going to go soon and it's going to get the frost. And when you guys go to frost, I mean, you go straight cold.
Well, it could warm back up, but it could be, so I think it's the watch. It's not, I don't want the garden to end. I would love to have 2 more months of weather like we had in July and August, but I know it's coming, and I'm fooling myself to believe that I'm going to get another month out of this. That's not going to happen. Right. And when we talked about it in our frost protection episode, like, my plants are too far along to be out here with blankets. I have literally some of the tomato plants have grown through the cage baby, the wire in the cage baby, and out, right? So now I have a couple of recipes for green tomatoes. I do want my Romas to ripen, because they've been the best for processing for sauce and things, and, canning tomatoes and stuff. So I'm hoping that those are ripen, and then, that's going to be what it is. The peppers will be fine. The only thing that I am disappointed about when it comes to the timing is my bell peppers. Because, I mean, they're so pretty. They're so beautiful.
And they hold all the way up until the very end.
Yeah, all the way up until.
Sickly.
No, they look really, really good. But what I'm going to need to do is kind of do one really big harvest like this weekend, because the timing of trying to wait until like the day before just won't work out with my schedule between the rain. And, 35 could get to 32 and you don't know it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, that's too cold for a bell pepper anyways. They don't really like it. Yeah,
well, none of these plants are going to do any more like going from flower to producing a pepper in the time I have left, right? And some of these plants, like the tomatoes in particular, the bell peppers I'll go back to, they are like almost at the point of like going from green to fully red. You still got a couple of green, bottoms on them. And so they could stay another week or so if the weather was optimal, and then fully ripen. But since the weather isn't optimal, it kind of slows down that process. So again, it gives me more time. The tomatoes, it's just like, they're just, looking around. Because again, it's just not warm enough, So it's all good. This is every year I lie to myself like, oh, it's going to be in November. And every year right around Halloween, like this is when it all goes down. I mean, the expected first frost is October the 29th. So it's on schedule, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I was thinking about my tomatoes and I got sad.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing, like...
Wait, I am sad, but I'm not sad. You know why?
No.
Because remember I told you I left one tomato plant in to see what it would do? Uh-huh. And I took that Septoria leaf spot and I beat the shit out of it. And I made it my bitch. That plant was looking good.
Yeah.
The only thing was it wasn't getting enough sun because it's so much lower in the sky now to create more flower. Like, I left it in there and it was like, I didn't have to spray it. I didn't have to trim anything. Like, it was looking really good, nice and lush.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't producing flowers. So I went ahead and pulled it up. And I was thinking back, I was looking at like other pictures and I would still be getting full blown tomato harvest up until this point. Yeah. I'd probably be about like you where whatever was there would ripen, you know, versus yours aren't really ripening.
Yeah.
They would maybe produce, but it'd be super slow. But, you know, I had to cut it back to where it was literally like 2 leaves on it. And by the time I took it out, it was full of leaves, but it just wasn't producing flowers. So I said, you know what? It's taking up valuable space.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and get rid of it. Yeah. And I didn't want it to, you know, if there was any disease, I didn't want it to get back into my garden. So I learned a very valuable lesson. I missed out on a lot of tomatoes this year. Yeah. And to be totally honest, I probably could have put like another very large starter plant in and gotten some, like, especially some like cherry tomatoes or something, because I don't think that requires much light.
No. Okay, I don't know that, but
I don't think they do, because generally speaking, and I was having a conversation with my wife earlier because I was looking at peppers, and I was looking at, I can't say the first part of the name, but whatever is like a mammoth pepper, where the pepper is like 8 inches, 10 inches big. It is a bell pepper, but it was just huge. And I was looking into them, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I looked into it, and I had this thought that, you know, if you're looking for something that creates a really large fruit or vegetable, whatever, I call everything fruit. If it produces a large fruit, then it's going to take longer for it to ripen, right? So cherry tomatoes are super small.
Sure.
And every time I've grown them, they're like extremely prolific. Like I can't even begin to consume the amount that one plant can produce.
yeah.
But you look at my better boys this year, like, dude, they were so slow to get that size to them. And my Romas, which I grow every year and will always grow, just pumping them out because they're medium-sized tomatoes, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of the size than it needing more or less light, right?
Yeah, I probably misspoke, but you know.
But I mean, I get I get the point about the idea of putting something else in, and you know, the one balance. And I'm going to have to think about this because so you know I'll have to sit down and meditate on my whole tomato planting next year. But the cherry tomatoes or the smaller tomatoes are they're just a better tasting tomato than everything I grew this year. Yeah. Although the other tomatoes, like the Romas, which I'm like doubling up on next year because it's the easiest it fits so many recipes that I use, right?
Yeah.
And
I just enjoy them because you can take one tomato and eat it in a salad, and it's like you don't have to save the tomato.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like it in a salad. It's not, I don't want to eat it raw generally.
Yeah. Well, see, and I don't really like tomatoes in general, but just that being said, like if my wife, she eats tomatoes all the time, but she can cut up a Roma and eat a Roma herself. And it's not like, okay, we got this baggie of tomatoes in there that are cut up. And, you know, and you can can them, you can eat them, you can do so much with them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's my personal favorite to grow.
Yeah. It definitely is if you are looking for production. You know, like it's a workhorse, if you will. So yeah,
and it's a tried true variety.
So there is again some sadness because I'm for sure going to take fruit off of the plants. I'm probably not going to pull the plants just yet, just to, kind of balance the workload. But there is something about like I'm leading up to the moment of when the garden's really going to be bare, So yeah. I may get another honeydew melon out of this whole batch though, and that's
we don't talk about those. We don't talk about that.
I'm telling you, man, that changes everything.
There are rules that have to be applied to this show, and you are not following them today.
No, I'm not.
You are a rule breaker.
I did not say I agree to any of those.
There's a new contract in your email right now.
I reject it. Yeah.
That's terrible. Yeah, that's and that's when you bring up melons and my soil test. That's a big reason why I'm doing the test is because my melons consistently get blossom rot, which is a lack of calcium. And I can fix it one at a time, but it's just not consistent enough.
Yeah.
So I need to get that calcium back in there. And I'm like, well, if I add calcium, I'm going to throw something else off, blah, blah, blah. So, my my watermelon harvest has been really low. And partially that's because I was growing large watermelons and they just take so long to ripen.
Yeah. And take a lot out of the soil too, if you could think about it that way too.
They do. And by the time they get to the size of a sugar baby, they're fine. But then once they get bigger than that, it's like I can't keep up with it. So, I mean, it's definitely like another issue that I have that I need to fix. And I mean, you have to remember, I've only been gardening in this space for 3 years, so everything is really new.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we're still adding gardens to it, which we are adding another 2 gardens this year, 2 beds.
You know, you're speaking my language, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to, but
this is my influence. It's all good, man.
No. Once I put the greenhouse up, and I was sitting back there and I was potting plants, and I was like, this is like my space. You know what I mean? Like, this is like a space. We talked about this last time, and I was just like, man, there's got to be another garden here. So we got the chickens. We put them out there during the day, and they're clearing the spot for us.
So wait, are you counting? So they're the 4 beds that are the OG garden, original. I guess.
Yeah, they're the OGs. Right? They're all gangsters.
Then you made a bed for the greenhouse. Do you consider that 1 garden bed or 2?
What, the greenhouse?
Yeah.
The greenhouse, I mean, to be honest, I didn't even consider it a bed until you just spoke of it. But I mean, I guess you would call it its own bed. You know, I call each bed a garden because I'm weird. And you've pointed that out probably about 58 times at this point. So
you have 5 gardens right now.
And we're going to have, in that area. And then we're going to have 2 more. And then we have the 2 wild area gardens. And that area, like I keep saying though, I don't have high hopes for it because I haven't really put like a whole lot into it, but it needs to get more. But it continues to
surprise you though, right?
It does and it doesn't. It does and it does. It surprises me at how bad it sucks sometimes. But then, you know, it's like I put green beans in this year, early in the year, and they did great. You know, and the sweet potatoes did okay. Last year, I got like a 60 pound watermelon out of it. So, you know, but one of the beds just really did not produce this year. And it's just, the soil is just so jacked up.
Yeah, but I mean, there is the concept of the do nothing garden, hashtag it, you know, so I like the idea of, and you've seen it online, you've seen it on TV, you know, like, man pulls 200-pound insert vegetable name, you know, from a garden that he hadn't been back to in 2 years or something wacky like that. Like, sometimes nature will do the thing. Like, I'm still getting tomatoes off of the 2 volunteers that grew up between the concrete patio and the raised bed, like through that crack, right? You know, so.
Look at my butternut squash this year.
Yeah, man. Hey, did your granny ever, you talk to her about, did she try it?
Oh, I don't talk to her on the phone. She's deaf.
Well,
she's
like you so hard of hearing.
I'll talk to her, but I'm guarantee you, she went home that night before she went to bed. She put him in the ground. So she's hardcore, man.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm 92 years old and I got soil in my soul. I just can't stop. I got to get my hands in the dirt. I was like, Granny, you ever eat the dirt? She's like, I've done it and I'll do it again.
When I was making cleaning up the sweet potato, I'm kind of like, you know, like I'm not going to put a whole lot of effort into scrubbing this itty bitty thing. Like a little dirt won't hurt. Add a little butter to it, it'll be fine. No.
Yeah. I imagine at this point, let's see, that was about a month ago. She's probably starting to get turnip greens now. So she grows the turnips for the greens. She doesn't care about, she didn't even know you could eat the root.
Yeah. That's she's growing up. That's the only way I knew of them is, you know, for the greens.
She's like hardcore, Southerner. So, and I mean, I am too, but when it comes to like, cause she grew up on a farm. So everything that she knows is relatable to not only the farm, but Southern culture. And we just down here, you typically don't eat turnips, rutabagas, or it's more of like a Northern type dish because it's cool weather.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of bell peppers, are you growing King of the North bell peppers?
Well, I did.
Okay.
And
that's why yours are still doing well.
No. That wasn't the only one of them. King of the North. I'm pretty sure because you know by that time I had so many freaking starts. but I'm pretty sure I planted one of them inside where the whole tomatillos were. And there are only 2 peppers on that plant. But there is a chance that one of the garden beds up front has them in there. I did a lot of California Wonder peppers. So I don't know if some of these that are still doing well in the front yard, I don't know which variety they are. I'll see once, everything is died back and I can see the tags or whatever. But
yeah.
But I know your point of like it being more designed for kind of northern climate. Yeah.
Because I mean, like I said, past week, all I've been doing is like looking at seeds and stuff like that, trying to figure out what I have, what I need, and how I want to grow it. And I was like thinking to myself, I was like, shit, I can't, based on the size of my garden, if I want to save seeds, I can't really grow a bunch of different varieties of stuff because you don't want them to cross pollinate.
Yeah.
So,
I've decided I'm totally not worrying about any of that. There is the balance of you don't want to start your whole garden off with seeds that really don't produce. There's that. Right. But outside of that, I'm going to be okay. I think a big reason why things like my peppers are still doing well, I think you got to remember, like, these things went into the ground in June, at the beginning of June. So it's not like they've been growing 7-8 months or whatever, And if the weather allows it, a lot of these plants will continue to grow and grow and grow. So, for my peppers, and I don't remember a year where peppers, like if they either produced or they didn't. And if they produce all the way up until the frost, you know? So I've had years for sure where it was like 2 peppers from a plant, bell peppers. That's the reason why I started so many this year and planted so many this year. And I'm really, really, really pleased. I've lost track with really how many are out there. So a part of the whole let's get out there before the frost, it'll give me an idea to figure out how much really is left. Because it's kind of hard now. You kind of see a pepper here, a pepper there, bell peppers in particular, even though they're larger. So I'm looking forward to that. And because I've been doing a lot of, like, I'm going back to now, this has been just over a month that I've been focused on, storing food. Now I have an idea of the things that I want to do with some of this food where I didn't exactly know kind of going into the growing season. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good indeed.
Good. Yeah. So my Brussels sprouts, we're not going to say anything else because I don't know.
I saw a picture of someone else posting Brussels sprouts they were growing in like a grow bag, and I thought like, I'm not even gonna show this to Ben. Like, I mean,
where
were like,
they?
Where I don't know. I think I remember where I saw it. I can look back. I got the impression that it was cooler wherever they are now, though.
Yeah. See, I mean, like I said, we're still at 85 degrees, but I have noticed in the past week, I think they've really taken hold. They're really starting to push it out. So I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah. And the reality of it, too, is, I mean, they're calling for a mild winter here. And a mild winter means that a lot of these things could possibly either hold over in the garden or continue to grow. So, I will not be taking them out of the ground at all unless spring comes and it's like, they're just not going to make it, But as long as they look good, because last year it was the same thing. My cabbages, they just let them sit there. And then as soon as we started, like February hit and we started getting more daylight, they started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, that's kind of my plan now, but like I re-sowed carrots because the seeds don't like to germinate when it gets over 80 degrees. And so I was like, okay, I was looking at the forecast and I was like, all right, it's going to be just under 80. Well, 77, 85, it's always over that here. Yeah. So, they're kind of struggling, but like I had put lettuce in and it instantly bolted. So I just replanted the lettuce thinking like, okay, by the time they get their roots settled and stuff, it'll start to cool off. Cause like it's got to cool off at some point here. We're less than a month out from our first frost. And literally our first frost will be like 32.2 degrees and then it'll be 70 the next day. So, I'm kind of thinking that like, so one of my beds now is basically all lettuce, because that's what we consume the most. So we'll see how that goes. But like, you go and look in the greenhouse. I mean, it's 100 degrees in the greenhouse still. You know, I put a fan in there to try and cool it off. It keeps it like a degree cooler. Doesn't really do anything. So
you couldn't do something like a late season tomato because we still don't have enough sun by the time we're getting to this time of year. Because I mean, the temperatures are there.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I believe if you ask me personally, my thoughts on this whole process, and this is like super immature, like I don't really know at all, but thinking about it off the top of my head, I've been thinking about this past couple of days, is I might be able to start a second crop of tomato inside. Let's just say tomatoes and peppers inside, and then have it run all the way up until frost, you know, essentially past the frost. But in the spring, I'm just thinking that if I can get them in there and insulate it, which shouldn't be too much, that the temperatures will allow me to start getting a harvest up to a month or two ahead of time.
Yeah, that's significant.
If I grow the right thing. So like if I grow like a King of the North pepper in there, then, essentially that should work well. But it's going to take all of this fall, winter, and spring to really get a feel of it. And I don't think I'll be able to actually like legit grow in there like I know what I'm doing until next fall.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that like in the spring, I'll probably put beans, tomatoes, and peppers in there and just try and get like an early harvest out of it and see. Because
maybe
I already
even
know
cucumbers.
Yeah.
Like a bush variety or something.
Yeah, I've never grown a bush variety, but I'm going to look into it. It just depends, but I'm thinking that will allow, because, in the middle of summer, I'm going to abandon that bitch. Like it's going to be, I guarantee you it'll be 130 degrees in there.
Yeah.
Miserable. So we'll see how that goes. But just all of that being said, I think, like my turnips, my turnips, rutabaga, and radishes all sprouted in there, and my snow peas. So, albeit I am growing in a smaller space. So like where I'd normally grow 4 or an 8 foot row of snow peas, I'm now growing a 2 foot row. But my whole goal is just to get some food out of it.
So we had the whole conversation around the sweet potatoes. Wouldn't that be a prime place to plant sweet potatoes?
I don't know.
You'd get time on the front end and time on the back end where it's really, really warmer. Like, the tropicals. Yeah. Like they really like.
And at some point it gets too hot too.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about it but I'm wondering even like 130, 120, and I know we're just, spitballing it here. I'm wondering if that still may not be too hot for a sweet potato. I don't know. It's worth kind of kicking the tires around with that one.
Yeah, I'll definitely want to see that. And if I put a shade cloth in there, I can. But quite honestly, monetarily wise, I'm a little tapped out. So Christmas time, I'm going to be asking for a shade cloth. I'm actually going to be, I'm trying to get that and I can't say the name, a louver system. The window with slats that you can open to let more air in and out. So, the idea is just to get that breeze, that air circulating out of there. So, and I bought a little teeny rinky-dink fan that's like solar powered for like $20. I should have bought the bigger one and I knew it, but I was like, you know what? Just give it a shot. See what happens.
See what happens. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to just drop money like it's nobody's business, but, my whole goal behind it is to be able to grow in there when I can't grow out there. So if I get anything in the spring or like early summer, then that's just an extra bonus.
Yeah. We were talking about you sowing onion seeds too pretty early, so that's something to think about too.
December, I'm going to be starting them in December, and I got some bulbs and stuff too to start. So, I guess I got about another month before I'll start putting in bulbs of, I got a shitload of like flowers and stuff like that. I made a big push because I decided like there are certain flowers that grow from seed that I like, but as also bulbs are just so easy. Yeah. That, I waited and I got some on sale and stuff like that. And I made a push and got a pretty fair amount. So I'm going to because they do the work for you, man. I think they really do, and I bought all naturalizing bulbs. So they'll kind of multiply, naturalizing, where they take hold and they'll just kind of multiply and you'll get more and more over time.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, that's kind of the goal with that. But I have so much space, and I know everybody's like, oh, you got a lot of space, but it's like, it's not food cultivable. I may have just made that word up. I can't really grow food in some spaces of it because first of all, it just wear me out trying to water it and everything, but to fill it up with like flowers and stuff like that, because bulbs, you don't really have to do a whole lot for them, so we'll see. Look at you getting all warm and gushy in your heart.
I know.
But
flowers,
I'm still sowing seeds, man. I sowed kale and stuff outside. I sowed spinach, beets. I got my beets are coming up. You can see the trend here. It's like all cool weather stuff that will be able to survive frosts and certain level of freezes. So I'm not trying to fill up my garden with it, but there are definitely sections. I'm going to try and get as much lettuce as I can because we eat a lot of lettuce.
Yeah.
So
all of the things that we started in July that we planted out September 11th. So all of the lettuces look really, really good. And the reason why I love a good mixed salad, and I also I like to use the cut and come again method. So there's at least one brand of lettuce that I grew that's supposed to be cold tolerant, but it definitely is the harvest the entire head kind of lettuce. It sits very low to the ground, so it's not as easy to kind of, just pick the leaves off. But I've noticed that everything else, like the kale is looking great. That's covered. The bok choy has been getting eaten alive by the cabbage worm. And I picked cabbage worms off of the pak choy as well as the kale that's not covered in a bed. I think I have some Tuscan kale, dinosaur kale. And so I said that to say, like, in October, the critters are still out there. So
once you get that frost, they won't be there.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that too, though, for that purpose.
Because the cabbage caterpillars or whatever, they are crushing my cabbage in my greenhouse. They're crushing it, and I'm spraying for it, and I'm trying not to go buy more starch. I'm trying, it's kind of how I am, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just so hot in there too.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're clamoring towards that. But that's the good side of it. So while things like tomatoes, that for me, this is the longest that I ever get out of tomatoes in the garden, and peppers, so it's awesome that I still have them in there. But then these other like leafy greens that I really enjoy, I'm waiting to get the sweet collards, once that frost hits them, so that's the flip of it, like
collards.
Yes, so they say. I'm waiting to get to enjoy some of those things, and I don't have to worry about, because once we get a couple of kind of really cold days, a couple of frosts, then I don't have to worry about some of those other pests, right? So that's always a good thing in my book. But I'm hungry.
I am too. I was just gonna say. And it's my turn to give the recipe.
I'm even hungrier.
So hold on tight, because it's time for the recipe of the day. This episode is proudly brought to you by San Diego Seed Company, a company that is dedicated to providing organic heirloom varieties of seeds for your small urban farm. That's right, you heard me. You are a small urban farmer. You provide food for your family and share with your neighbors, and they are dedicated to providing you with the best seeds for a bountiful harvest. Check them out at sandiegoseedcompany.com or on social media at, you guessed it, San Diego Seed Company. All right, so since I'm having this 3-year-long battle with Brussels sprouts, I'm going to give out my favorite Brussels sprout recipe.
Okay.
How do you like Brussels sprouts, Batavia? How do you cook them?
Pan fry mostly. Every now and again, I'll put them in the oven to roast them. I probably eat them like I count on one hand the times I eat them in a year, though.
Really? Mm-hmm. So I never ate them much. especially as a kid, like my mom made them and she always bought them frozen. That's awful, you know, and prepackaged in butter and all that crap. No. So what we do is we preheat our oven to about 400. We get a baking sheet and we half all of the Brussels sprouts that we're going to cook. Okay. And then you take an onion and you slice your onion to your desired thickness and you mix the onions and the Brussels sprouts up and you put them on the baking sheet. And then you roast them for, I don't know, till they start to brown.
You put oil on it?
No, we don't cook with a lot of oil. So you can put oil on it, but that would deter from the next section. So after you do that, you go and you get pecans and you take your pecans and you mix them in and then you drizzle maple syrup on it and you put them back in the oven and let the maple syrup caramelize just a little bit. You don't want to burn it. The other day I forgot to do that step and I did it in the beginning and started a fire. So don't do what I did. But you just put them in for a few minutes, let it start to caramelize, and then you pull it out and you let it cool. And when you let it cool, that syrup will get even thicker. And then you serve it. It's super easy, and it literally changed my Brussels sprout life. It's the whole reason why I grow Brussels sprouts. For 3 years, I've fought tooth and nail.
Yeah,
So
you had
it's
me at
super easy.
pecans. There's not a dish that I don't love if it has. I mean, it's like that's one of my things. And then you came back around and hit me over the head with maple syrup, and I'm just like, damn it! Do I have Brussels sprout seeds? Damn it! That sounds delicious.
It's clutch, man. It's good. It's good stuff. So it's super easy. It's fast. It's fast-ish. But, you know, in the wintertime, like we like to bake a lot of foods in the wintertime because it heats up your house as well. And it's when we first had that, we had a friend and he made maple syrup and sold it. And we bought a gallon of it. And damn it, son. Damn it. All my people up in New England and Canada that do fresh maple syrup, you know what I'm saying. Give us a shout out about that maple syrup, boy. It's on fire. Wow. But you can add salt to it, salt and pepper too, just to kind of give it a test. But I wouldn't put too much else on it. So that maple syrup, man, woo, buddy.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about what veggies I have that I can sub in. Like, there's nothing like, well, I mean, I guess, what's the other veggie that Brussels sprouts really taste like?
Cabbage.
Yeah, that's it.
It's basically a mini cabbage.
Yeah, and I didn't grow those either.
Which is what I don't understand, because people will be like, I don't like Brussels sprouts. Hey, let me get some of that boiled cabbage.
It tastes slightly different, but it does definitely, it's in the family. Yeah, it does taste slightly different. Yeah.
Slightly.
I think it's to the point of like, you know, like you said, the times when you've had them when you were younger, it's like they've been boiled to death. You know, it's just kind of like this gooey greenness. Although I come from a long line of we're gonna cook every bit of nutrients out of that green and into that pot. You know, that's how I cook most of my greens.
That's what a lot of people do, man. And it's, you know, and a lot of recipes call for that. And you know, and there is something to be said about like eating raw and the amount of nutrients that stay in it. But at the same time, like I like my food cooked. Yeah. But I feel like you could cook it a little bit different to save as much nutrients as you can into it, you know? And the food that you grow has more nutrients than the food that comes out of a farm. Yeah.
I saw someone online yesterday, and he's a chef, he was making collard green coleslaw. So instead of your traditional cabbage, you know, it was
sounds
kind of
not good.
Yeah, it was kind of I think the bite of a collard green is different than the bite of regular cabbage.
Well, right? First of all, I don't like coleslaw. So.
Oh, you don't?
Oh. No, and when I was growing up, every time there was, you know, in North Carolina, because Thanksgiving, we've had many Thanksgivings where we sit outside and eat. It's plenty warm. Christmases, I've had plenty of Christmases wearing shorts. And every time we had a family get together, we always had coleslaw, broccoli slaw, like all these slaws and salads. And I hated every single one of them. And it was literally like, you got like, and this is when I ate meat. So you get like your chicken, your biscuits, and then like all these different slaws and salads. And I was like, ew. You know what I mean? It's like, how much mayonnaise can we really eat?
I was just going to say, it's like, here's a bowl with mayonnaise and some vegetable. Here's another bowl with mayonnaise and some vegetable. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. So do you remember if it was sweet or vinegary?
What?
The coleslaw or the slaws?
No, I will eat. They were all sweet. Mm-hmm. So I will eat coleslaw that does not have mayonnaise in it. If it's like a vinegar based, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, I've gotten a little bit better, but my granny, she's like she's world famous for ham salad and broccoli salad.
Well, okay.
And I look at them and I'm like, I love you, but you can go in there and make some of that cornbread you make, and now we can talk business, because I'll eat the hell out of some cornbread.
I used to have a cousin. My grandmother always made it with Jiffy Mix, right? You know, so she put it in a really nice, you know, kind of old school pan, you know, so it looked like she was in there slaving over, you know, a hot kitchen. And he used to, this was probably when we were like 6, 7, 8. He used to always say, "Can I have some more cake? Can I have some more cake?" Because the way she would cut it up, you know, all you need to do is put some icing on it. It's Jiffy Mix. I don't know if you guys normally would eat that. It's pretty sweet.
No, I've eaten Jiffy Mix many a time.
Yeah.
She her biscuits were to die for, and one day we asked for the recipe. And she gave us the recipe for Christmas. That was our Christmas present. And we were like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out that it was this mix that you can only find in the country, right? So we get it, and I'm like, I don't even care. She gave us a bag of this mix. I'm like, I'm fixing to eat it. We looked at the bag. It was 6 grams of trans fat, which is the fat that never leaves your body no matter what you do, for a biscuit the size of a quarter.
Wow.
And I used to eat probably 4 or 5 normal sized biscuits at dinner. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna die early. So it was like the best and worst Christmas present you could ever get, because it's like, damn, I love it, but I'll never eat it again. And then they started making it without the trans fat, and it don't taste the same.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So anyways, back to the garden. I've
been putting it up. I have to plant my garlic bulbs.
Yeah. How many are you planting?
I don't know. I think it's like 40 or something. You know, I don't do anything small. I'm thinking I'm going to do an experiment though, because I ordered some online. I think I'm going to just put some in the ground that I bought from the store, because I'm curious to see how they do.
I don't think you're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Say that.
I don't think you're going to have an issue. I think that the biggest thing is if it's hard neck or soft neck garlic. And I think if you've eaten it and you like it, then who gives a shit what it is? Put it in the ground.
Yeah.
Because I bought some like garlic bulbs. I'm ashamed of myself for doing it, you know, like from like a company. And in all reality, I do believe that if you get it from the store, you can grow it no problem.
Yeah, that's a part of, you know, when we talk about the seed potatoes for your regular potatoes, your sweet potato slips, you talk about your garlic, that's an expense. And it can be a significant expense, you know, when it comes to, you know, making that purchase and then planting and then hoping to get a good harvest. So, you know, I've invested quite a bit into the garden over these last couple of years. But a part of where I'm at now is I'm looking to see where can I cut some costs, you know? Yeah. So yeah. So
I'm listening to you, but do you hear this?
No, I don't hear it.
I swear, like our shower is right next to my office. I swear my wife's in there doing jumping jacks in the shower.
She's like your old, the guy that you guys used to live your old neighbor up under you.
My old neighbor, my first neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I have 6 bulbs. I have no idea how many cloves. It's a fair amount, but I definitely want to do more.
I was counting cloves, not bulbs. I think I have 6 or 8 bulbs.
Yeah, so I probably have about the same, but I want to do more because we eat a lot of garlic. But I also want to save to keep that going every year. Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to buy them every year. You know what I mean?
That's exactly where I was headed when it comes to the expense. Like the only logic that I'm trying to make out of any of this is some of the sweet potatoes I'll be able to use. So basically I can look and say the money I spent crosses 2 years, you know, because otherwise.
Now I know that Sweet potatoes are typically coated in wax to keep them from sprouting. Mm-hmm. So if you buy organic sweet potatoes, they're not coated in wax, and those are really what they recommend if you're going to start from the store. So just buy a couple organic. Which,
well, I'm hoping the ones that I have. I'm hoping the ones that I just harvested will make it until the beginning of next year, and I'll be able to start slips from a few of those. Because again, ain't no sweet potato pies coming out of them. You know?
No, and I mean I don't know. I mean, I think that you need to start your sweet potatoes in like February.
Yeah, you may be right. I haven't done the math. I just know I started them in April, and I know that at least another month would have been just fine. Like I would have been better off. The
bigger the better.
Yeah,
because you think, and I strongly suggest you do roots to get the roots happy and plant. I mean, somebody told me straight up, like, if they're planted in dirt before you put them in, they're not going to grow well. And I was like, well, shit, I got 50 pounds out of them, so I don't know what the problem is. Yeah. You know, somebody is not telling the truth.
Yeah. So these two things, both of these things can't be true, right?
Like, I respect you and your expertise, but I'm telling you what I saw and what I experienced, and is unparalleled.
Yeah.
So.
And you have 2 years of doing it the more traditional way, and a different result.
Right.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a part of this thing, man. We live and we garden and we learn. It never ceases to amaze me. So the last thing that I'm really doing is I'm letting some things go to seed. So my okra, I'm letting go to seed. Just simple fact is I'm getting a lot of okra still, but I don't want to eat that much. So I'm just letting it grow. Yeah. And my green beans, even though I don't want to grow the same green beans next year, I still want to save the seed in case I do need to grow them, because, you know, the groundbreaking announcement last week was I want to do purple green beans for the simple ease of finding them to pick. So by me saving the legit green bean seeds, I'll at least have some seed for next year, even though I already have a whole nother pack of seeds. But it's just, like I said in the beginning of the year, I want to start saving seed. Yeah. And that would, you know, you don't start by not doing it. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know, if somebody needs some seed or something, like I'll plant one and see if it grows, you know, just stick it in the dirt in the wintertime to see if it'll sprout. And if it does and somebody else needs green beans, because I don't know, man, for some reason every year somebody asks me for green bean seeds, then I'll have green bean seeds. I'll give them the green bean seeds that I bought, and I'll use the ones if I have to. But, you know, it's just also the other thing I was thinking about too, when I'm looking for all these seeds and stuff, is like, it's very expensive to start a garden, period, you know. But if you're growing a big garden, you're buying a lot of different kinds of seeds. Like, and I do want to start saving seeds, but do I want to grow the same things every year? You know, or do I want to maybe switch up, or you know what I'm saying?
Aren't you saving based on, I know I want to grow this? Like, there are a bunch of things in my garden that I'm not saving seeds for those ratchet beefsteak tomatoes. One, I have some in the package, and two, I was so not impressed with them, so I'm not even going to bother saving seeds from those.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't save any seeds for my Better Boys, and I still actually have a pack of seeds that I have zero intention of growing, unless I just have to grow. You know, that's all I have. Shit,
you know, is that?
But no, I mean, you know, I know that I grow. So typically in the past, I've grown the same things every year. You know, same varieties for the most part. You know, sometimes it'll change a little bit, and next year, you know, I've done a bunch of tests this year, figured out what I did and didn't like, because, you know, a new garden is a time for me to kind of see what I do and don't want to do. But then I'm like, well, let me try some new stuff, some different varieties. You know, I mean, I have no problem growing your standard bell pepper. Yeah. Your green bell pepper, like, I have no problem doing it. But I'm like, you know what? I have the option to try something else. Let's try it. But then going back and I'm saying, okay, but even if I do like it, maybe I want to switch it up the next year and grow the different one, you know? Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like, what do you do? Yeah. You know what I mean? Do I buy all of these seeds at once and then just say, because I'm convinced that from here on out for years to come, that it is going to be hard to get seeds unless people really pick up production. When I say get seeds, what I'm referring to really is getting seeds from these heirloom companies and stuff like that. Not like Ferry Morris or Burpee. They always have seeds. It seems like they don't really run out as much, but have decided on the company that I'm going to order the majority of my seeds from, and it's where my roots kind of started. And I'm going to be ordering from San Diego Seed Company as well, but their varieties are geared for warmer weathers, for their weather. But my weather is not that much different. So there are some things I can use and there's some things that I can't. So I definitely want to use them, but it's hard because you go online now. And what I did is I went and looked and was like, who has the most of what I need now?
Yeah.
Because that's a telling tale of what's going to be available the next year. There's only a couple places that had everything, and San Diego Seed Company was one of them. They pretty much had most of what I wanted to, that I could get from them. So, I just been doing, man, it's like nauseating. I'm like, dude, I'm not even done yet, but I just want to go ahead and get it started. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. Ben knows half of this story. So I was saving some seeds. So what I've been doing with the peppers, I'll just take the seeds out, put them on a saucer, and basically say in my mind, I'll come back to you, right? And so I had a whole little container of jalapeno peppers because, that's what I've grown the most of. You thought I had a lot of tomato plants. And so I was separating them like, all right, good seed, bad seed, good seed, bad seed. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how rough you are when it comes to being able to rub jalapenos and other peppers all over your face. That ain't me. I double up, triple up my gloves when I'm cutting them. And so it didn't occur to me to wear gloves when I was separating the seeds. And so, we were talking for however long. I had another call for work I was on. I was just kind of separating. I was in the kitchen separating. And then I went to my purse and got a jar of Vaseline, put my finger in the Vaseline, put it on my lips. And then for the next hour, my lips were on fire.
Yeah.
But wait. So after it finally dissipated, it's like 3 hours later, I went and got a napkin and I thought I was wiping out like that layer of the Vaseline because there was still some in the jar. So I put my finger back in there, put it back on my lips and did it a second time. So ultimately I threw that jar out. But
hard-headed.
I'm telling you, soft behind it makes. So yeah. And I basically put the other seeds in an envelope. I'm done with those.
So talking about saving pepper seeds, I just recorded a video and I was like, I'm leaving this pepper on here and I'm going to save the seeds from it. And, for the record, I said it in the video and I'll say it here. Saving seed, the way I'm looking at it is if I save my seeds, the new gardener that doesn't know anything about it will have more seeds available. So if we all saved some portion of our seeds, there would be more seeds for everybody. Yeah. So that being said, I let the pepper grow, turned red, started to wrinkle, and I was like, okay, let's get this. So I cut it, brought it home, brought it inside. I told my wife, I said, don't eat that pepper. Don't touch that pepper, okay? I know it's red and I know it's pretty, but don't. I cut it open this morning. There was 5 damn seeds in it. I was like, I'm not even going to save these seeds. You know what I mean? I was like, screw that.
That's like on every mystical movie. It's like, these are the 5 seeds that will allow our country to continue.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, too, is like, that was literally the last pepper. And for some reason, it was just like an afterthought for me. But I was like, nah, I need to leave it out there. So I've been intentionally leaving like that and my chipotle peppers out. And then I started looking into the seeds I have for next year. I was like, well, I have hot peppers. And I planted the chipotles right next to, like literally right next to the jalapenos. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get like a cross. I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah.
So like, I would be cool if it was like in another bed somewhere, but it was literally like they were touching. So I was like, okay. So I pulled all those off today too. So it's kind of a failure on my part, but at the same time, like,
I'm more concerned about, which I think once it germinates and grows, I think I'm in the clear. I think it's kind of cool if it's a plant that I thought was going to be this thing and it turns out to be slightly different. Obviously, as long as I'm not planting a pepper plant and it's like, whoop, there's a tomato there. Like, it's not going to do anything like that. So that's why I'm not as worried about it. I did a couple of trial runs with a couple of random seeds. Like I remember I told you the mango melon, my favorite, germinated fine. That is definitely one that you have to be conscious of, though, because that could be a cross between any number of the melons I grew because they weren't heirloom. And then I did some marigolds later in the summer, and the germination rate was hit or miss for those. So I'll just keep that in mind, because you talk about marigold seeds. I got a bunch of actual packages that I purchased, but those are the easiest thing to save, and every flower generates a ton of those. If that's a flower you're into, yeah.
I'm not really into them, but they're so
you're not
useful.
Crazy about them, yeah.
They serve a purpose. So I definitely have gotten a bunch of those, and I'm not really like hung up on like, oh, it's not really a pretty one or anything, just kind of like.
For me, they've always grown and stayed vibrant all the way until the frost.
Dude, they even after the frost here, they keep going. So yeah, I keep, I take them out every year and I throw them out in the woods and just like maybe I'll get a marigold patch. You never know. You know what I mean? So no, I've saved. So if you go back to an episode earlier in the year when we had our goals, and I know we're going to do a podcast about this, but I said that I was going to start saving seeds, and that is what I have done.
Yeah, good for
I
you.
have not like gone crazy. Like I should have left my broccoli in to go to seed, but at the same time, like I didn't know the variety of it. And like in the greenhouse, I'm going to plant a Waltham broccoli. It's a 58-day variety. It's a quick growing, but that's a hybrid.
Yeah.
So if I save the seed from that, like what the hell am I going to get? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and even though I know, and you and I agree, like I don't really care, but if I'm planting it because it's 58 degree or 58 day, and then I plant and it reverts back to an 80-day variety, that's an issue. You know what I mean? That's an issue. Yeah. So, but otherwise, like my other broccolis and stuff like that, like I plan to just let them go to seed. That's why I'm adding beds so I can let them go to seed and go.
But they take a long time. Those are like, things like broccoli and kale and even lettuce and things. They take a long time to go to actually produce the seed so you can harvest it.
They do. And that's why you need more space, but if I let one lettuce plant in there, it's not going to take up that much damn room. And you can trim it and all that stuff. I mean, the idea is just get the seeds and get it the hell out of there. So, but that and like zinnia seeds, and I'm not even saving those now. I'm just letting them fall where they are. I'm like, they'll reseed next year. I might go back and get like a bag of soil and just kind of cover them or something. But, I'm just kind of working through, I've saved a lot of different flowers. Anything that's really easy to save, I've been saving. And, like beans, what's easier than a green bean? Seriously, of all the beans to do, green beans would be the easiest.
Battery dead in 3, 2, 1.
Just go to your regular camera. Okay. So we'll just finish up like this.
Yeah. So I've been doing a bunch of seed saving as well, but I have probably focused on. I think I'm back. Mortimer, we're back. I've saved a bunch of seeds as well. I did do some zinnia seeds because they're just so freaking easy to save. I'm interested in seeing how they germinate, though. We'll see.
They don't even look like seeds.
No, it's just one of those weird and wacky things about nature, though.
Yeah.
Like the only reason why I knew to save them as seeds is because I started some from seeds. Otherwise, I would have never thought it.
That's how I was. So like I tried the nasturtiums this year, and I have one that's starting to grow, but I'm not really worried. But like I was gonna save the salvia that I grew seed, but it died and it dropped seed and now it's growing back. So I'm actually going to buy a pack of seeds because I really like salvia. you want to talk about pollinator friendly. Yeah. My God. So we're going to get that out there. But like the wildflower garden that I started this year that I have like suspiciously not talked about at all, it got overrun with crabgrass.
Okay.
And I never got a bloom until about 3 weeks ago. And now it's like blooming everywhere. So I'm like, okay, maybe they'll go to see, because, that's what I want is them to go to seed drop and all that stuff. So
that's another nice thing, though, when it comes to flowers in particular about your area and your weather in particular, because it's still warm enough for flowers to continue to bloom.
Yeah.
And, kind of a proper death, which hopefully follows by seeds being dropped, so.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for you.
I hope so. I need somebody to root for me because it's all new, but and I've saved seeds before, but not really like, okay, this is what I'm going to label them and I'm going to start like a catalog. I've never done that. And this year coming up, the big push for like heirloom varieties is going to be very trying for me. Because they're not as disease resistant a lot of times and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's a huge thing though too. That's really huge. And I'm joining you on that. My future purchases of seeds, they will be of the heirloom variety because that's it's thinking more of the long term game here. So 5 years from now, my seed vault, the seeds I have now, won't be in my seed vault. Now, there's a chance that if I continue to save seeds, right, next year's jalapeno pepper plants, if I plant with this year's seeds that I saved, I'm taking that plant to next year and so on, so they can live through that way. But yeah, I think the idea of, for me, as well as you've described, new purchases of packages of seeds will be of the heirloom variety. I am going to balance that, though, with things that, like I wouldn't do heirlooms for like zucchini because I know how prone they are to, getting infected, as an example. So,
yeah, I got to look into zucchini a little bit too. Because there are some that I just fight with so much. I'm like, and if I didn't get to save a zucchini seed, like I wouldn't be like totally heartbroken. Yeah. But some stuff like tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and broccolis and all that stuff, like that's stuff that I like to grow and I thoroughly enjoy it. So,
well, I'm intrigued by something like, because I'm still on the search for like my favorite tomatoes. And I'm intrigued by the idea of, all right, you found it, but it may not taste the same next year, unless it is, that of an heirloom variety. So.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that's why you grow heirloom and you have to isolate them because you're like, yeah, I like this tomato, but you can't cross-pollinate it with anything else. So, that's the big trick behind it. And it does make it, I think it adds a little level of complexity to your garden that is just stunning, to be exact. I mean, for lack of a better word, because there's some stuff where they're like, you can't plant anything within 400 yards of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, damn. I mean, what gardener has that option?
Much space, yeah.
I don't. Do you?
Nope. Well,
there you go.
Front yard, backyard.
No. You do and don't, though. You know what I mean?
No, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, and heirlooms tend to be more expensive as well.
And so probably I have a couple of them where I kind of like stumbled upon them, just didn't order them on purpose for heirlooms, but they're actually heirlooms. Probably less seeds too, if I had to guess.
You get less seeds. So like I'm ordering the bulk of mine from Botanical Interest.
I have a couple of packages from them.
Yeah, well, see, I started off growing with them because that was what was available in my area. And here they don't really have them, but I was always happy with them. They always did well. And I mean, everybody else seeds they all do just about the same, to be honest. But when it comes to price and the bulk that I needed to get, I'm like, all the basic stuff I'll get from there. But if I want something specialty, that's where I'm going to branch out and go other places. So, they seem to have everything too. But I think we covered the garden.
I think we did. Oh, wait, I should cover my garden?
No, I think we covered the garden. Oh, you definitely should cover your garden.
There's no more covering of my garden. Yeah.
Your yard is so small, you could make it one giant greenhouse.
That's it. That's all.
In 5 years, she will come to it.
Yeah. Well, the question is, how many years am I into contemplating it now? That's the real question.
That is true. So add 5 years onto that.
Well, for something like that, of that size, of that magnitude, yeah, you probably do need to double my average for a total of 6 years. It takes me a total of 6 years.
So do you have anything to tell the good people?
Get it while the getting's good, man.
Do it.
Whatever the it is for you. Yeah, that's what I got.
There you go. So check us out on backyardgardenstv.com, Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram and everywhere else. And send us your questions, your listener questions. I thoroughly enjoy answering them. I do too. I know that we've gotten messages from people saying that they were appreciative of them. So hit us up, have fun, wear a mask. We're in the second wave. Be safe. Eat your food. Take care of your garden. If you haven't, check out the website, though. We are putting up slowly but surely, month by month, what you should be doing in your garden. And we're trying to make it universal. Which is very hard because some people are really cold and some people aren't, but you can make them work for you, what you're doing. And until next time, you guys stay safe. Happy Halloween. And boo. Okay, I scared everybody.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you for listening to us today. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Backyard Gardens Pod. And we share gardening tips and clips from the show. And we would love to see your gardens and share them with everybody. So if you want to join us and you want to share your gardens, feel free to use the hashtag BYG podcast. And if you want to see us on video, you can find us on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we have the full show and clips and all the recipes broken down for you. And until next time, learn to grow and grow for change. And we're going to call it a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.